Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking through some MLB player props I like on Prizepicks for today, for Thursday, August the 18th. We do have a 11 game slate, I believe, on this Thursday. We do have some early games today. It is kind of a split slate. I think of the 11 games, we have 6 afternoon games, and then we have 5 night games. So, got a split slate today. There are some plays I do like in these early games, so I did want to go ahead and get this video out late Wednesday night. Hopefully, by the time all you guys are watching this video, you'll be able to get all these plays in before these games do start. But I got 3 props that I like for Thursday's slate. The pitcher board, I don't really like a ton of pitcher props today. We're only going to give out 1 pitcher prop, but there are 2 hitter props I do like for today. We'll talk about those hitter props when we get there. Hitter props, they can be volatile, so maybe you want to, maybe play a little bit lighter on this entry. Obviously, that's your choice, but we'll talk through the 3 plays that I like for today, guys, taking a first look at the board on Wednesday night. Before we get started, though, talking through our plays for today, we can recap the 2 picks that we gave out Wednesday. And unfortunately, we did not hit our 2-pick entry. Gave out 2 picks. One of them hit, one of them did not. The 1 pick that did hit was Carlos Rodon, his over fantasy points. Rodon pitched a great game, 6 innings, only gave up 1 run. I believe he had 11 strikeouts. That was, that was a play I felt really good about. I like the spot a lot for Rodon, and he's just been crushing all season. He had another great start Wednesday. Went over his fantasy score, went over his K prop too. But the play that missed, unfortunately, was Domingo Germán. We took his over fantasy points in a good matchup against the Rays, and Germán actually pitched really well until the 5th inning. He pitched 4 innings with only allowing 1 run, had 6 strikeouts. I believe he had like 27 fantasy points heading into the 5th inning. And in the 5th inning, he just got killed. I think he gave up like 3 or 4 hits in that inning. He gave up 2 runs, and the Yankees pulled him really quickly. They pulled him halfway through the 5th inning, I believe, with only 71 pitches. He got pulled really early in that game. At his pitch count of 71, I was definitely surprised to see the Yankees pull him so quickly. I thought he could at least got another inning, maybe even got through the 6th inning and potentially gotten a quality start. But the Yankees pulled him at 71 pitches, and he finished with 23 fantasy points. Obviously, we needed 29 from Germán, came up just short. I don't regret that play, though. I felt like it was a really good spot for Germán. I like the matchup a lot against Tampa Bay, and he pitched really well until that 1 inning. He had good, the strikeout stuff was there as well, which is one of the reasons I like that matchup so much because of how much the Rays have been striking out this year. Germán had 6 strikeouts through 4 innings, and then that 5th inning he gave up like 2 or 3 runs, and ultimately got pulled. Came up short of his fantasy score. But we didn't cash our 2-pick. I didn't really like the board a ton Wednesday. I kind of said that in the video. But I do like this board a little bit for Thursday. Not necessarily pitcher props. There's not much stands out right now. But I do like a few hitter props that we're going to talk about. But I do want to mention that, if you guys enjoy these YouTube videos and if they do help you out a lot, I do give out additional Prizepicks plays over on Patreon. If you guys do want to check out the Patreon, as always, it is linked down below in the description. We did have a really good day on Patreon. We gave out 3 picks on Patreon. Usually I give out anywhere from like 3 to 5 plays. I give a full write-up for each play that I like. So as you can see, these are the plays that we gave out Wednesday over on Patreon. All 3 of the plays that we gave out hit. Also, I give out my favorite 2 plays of the day. So the picks I give out in this video, and then the picks I give out on Patreon, I'll figure out, of all those picks, which ones are my favorite, and then I'll put them, say these are my 2 favorite plays of all the ones I'm on for today. If you want to run a 2-pick entry with those 2 plays, you can do so. We cashed our 2-pick entry, and we hit all 3 of our Patreon plays. So again, if you guys want to check out the Patreon, as always, it's linked down below in the description. $20 per month gets you access to all my Prizepicks plays. Post those every day. Obviously, when NFL season starts, I'll still be covering Prizepicks. I'm also going to be covering DFS as well. That's something that I didn't really do for MLB this year, but I'll definitely be covering DFS again when NFL returns, and obviously when NBA gets here too. And you get all that for one price. Prizepicks and DFS content is all provided for one price on Patreon. Plus, we have a Discord chat too. So there's a lot of stuff available over there. If you want to check it out, as always, it is linked down below in the description. But let's talk through our 3 plays, 3 plays for Thursday. So got 1 pitcher prop I like, got 2 hitter props I like for today. So for the pitcher prop, first off, we're going to start with that. It's coming in one of these early games, and it's going to be Dane Dunning. I'm liking Dane Dunning's over 28.5 fantasy score going up against the Athletics. So this is a really good matchup for Dane Dunning. The Athletics so far this season, they have not been very good against right-handed pitching. They have a pretty weak lineup overall. You look through their lineup kind of from top to bottom. Like, this is a lineup that just doesn't really have much power. There's not a ton of scary bats in this lineup, and there's also strikeouts to be had. I mean, So far this year, it's a small sample size, but Cal Stevenson, 38% K rate, 21% for Sean Murphy, 23% for Brown, 26% for Bolt, 22% for Allen. And then you look at like the power numbers. I mean, these guys have really, really low ISOs. Like these are guys that don't offer much power. Like really the only guy in this lineup that has power, only the few guys that have power are like Sean Murphy and Seth Brown. So this A's lineup, they're not a team that's really going to score a ton of runs. If they do score a ton of runs, it's usually because they're going to get like a bunch of bloop singles and doubles. They're not really going to hit a ton of home runs. Their lineup isn't built for that. You look at where they rank this year against right-handed pitching. They have the worst batting average in the league, 213 batting average against righties. Their ISO is really, really low. They got the third lowest ISO, so kind of, as I said, there's not, they don't really have much power. WRC plus, I mean, Oakland's got the second worst WRC plus against righties. OBP, slugging, or OPS, all those numbers are towards the bottom as well. And their strikeout rate is up there. I mean, they are top 10 in K rate. They have the 8th highest K rate against righties at 23.6%. Now, Dane Dunning, so far this year, I mean, he's not been like a great pitcher, but he's been solid. He's kind of just been average. He has had some good starts, though, this season. He has flashed some upside. And this is definitely a matchup where I think we can get a good game from Dane Dunning. I think he can go 6 innings, get a quality start, shouldn't give up but a few runs, if that. And he should definitely be able to get some strikeouts in this matchup because the A's do strike out quite a bit. And I think right now, looking at like all of Dane Dunning's props on DK Sportsbook, so for strikeouts, he's his over 4.5 strikeouts is minus 150. So basically, the books are projecting him to get about 5 strikeouts. His outs recorded, so his pitches, innings that he will go, he's minus 140 on over 17.5 outs. So basically, the books are kind of expecting him to go 6 innings. And then earned runs, he is minus 160 on the under 2.5 earned runs. So he's favored to give up less than 2 runs or 2.5 runs. So let's say Dane Dunning goes 6 innings with 5 Ks and gives up 2 runs, which is basically what his projection kind of is for today. That would put him at 31 fantasy points, even if he doesn't even get a win. But there's definitely a chance he could get a win today as well. Like if you look at the game or the odds in this game, right now the Rangers are pretty heavy favorites. They're minus 190 money line favorites in this game. If they can give Dunning some run support, he could definitely get a win as well. So like 6 innings, 4 to 5 Ks, only maybe 1 or 2 runs he allows, and then potentially a win. That's kind of what I'm looking for from Dane Dunning today. There's plenty of ways that he could go over this fantasy score though. Like even if he does give up maybe 2 or 3 runs, he might be able to get like 6 or 7 strikeouts in this matchup just because of how much Oakland strikes out. Dunning doesn't have a super, super high K rate this year, but he has shown he can get strikeouts in good matchups. He had 6 Ks recently against the White Sox. Early this year, he had 7 Ks against Seattle. He had 8 Ks against the Angels, 7 against Atlanta. So I like the matchup here, and that's kind of why I'm targeting Dunning for today. I feel like his fantasy score is just a few points too low. I think this Oakland team is just, it's a lineup that you don't really get scared of. They're not a team you really fear. They're not a team that's really going to put up many runs most nights. And I feel like today, going up against this weak Oakland lineup, we could see Dunning pitch really well here. So I like his over 28.5 fantasy score as our first play for today. Then the next 2 plays we're going to be targeting, again, they are both hitter props. So I know that hitter props can be, they can be volatile. Even the best hitters in the league go 0 for 4 any night. Like it's definitely hard to predict hitter outcomes. They can be very random. But these are 2 hitter props that definitely stood out to me at first look, kind of when I first looked at the board. So the Rangers, I think they're in a pretty good spot here going up against Zach Lugie. I think that's how you say his name. He's not been that great this year. He has really struggled so far this year against lefties and righties. I mean, he's been pretty bad, especially against righties, though. He is a left-handed pitcher, and against righties, he's allowing a 381 WOBA and a 260 ISO, has just a 15% K rate. So, in general, 16% K rate over the season. He's not a guy that's really going to get many strikeouts. He's been giving up a lot of fly balls. He has a fly ball percentage over 53%, and he's been giving up a lot of hard contact as well, 41% hard contact. So this is a spot where I think the Rangers can put up some runs today against Lugie. You look at his stats on Baseball Savant, all of his numbers are bad. Blue is bad on Baseball Savant, and look at all the blue for Lugie. 21st percentile in average X velocity, 21st percentile in hard hit percentage, but then expected batting average, like expected slugging, he's in the bottom 1% in the league in expected slugging. He's in the bottom 4%. He's bottom 4% in the league in expected ERA, expected WOBA, and barrel percentage. Obviously, his K rate is really, really low, 16% K rate, which is bottom 10% in the league. He has a 5.83 expected ERA. His ERA right now is 5.49, which is obviously really high. His expected ERA is even worse, 5.83. So clearly, there's nothing that shows that Loogie should really be that good. At least not right now. He's just not pitched that well. The Rangers, they're not like a great lineup by any means, but at the top of that lineup, they do have some good bats. Semien, Seager, Garcia, specifically Marcus Semien. So far this year against lefties, his numbers have just kind of been solid. I mean, he's got a 160 ISO, 301 WOBA against lefties. But throughout his career, Semien has actually hit left-handed pitching pretty well. You look at his numbers this season; they've kind of been identical versus lefties and righties. There's really not much of a difference. Batting average is about the same, slugging is about the same. He's got a slightly higher OPS. I mean, ISO is basically identical. WRC plus, he's slightly higher against lefties. But when you look at his career numbers show that he's throughout his career has been a much better hitter against lefties. Throughout his career, batting 265 against lefties compared to 249 against righties. His ISO, 202 ISO to lefties compared to 180 to righties. WRC plus 118 to lefties compared to 104 to righties. So clearly, Semien has hit left-handed pitching better throughout his career. This year, it's been about identical to lefties and righties. But I think this matchup against a soft-tossing lefty that doesn't really have any strikeout stuff, I think that's a pretty good spot for Marcus Semien. I like this fantasy score of 6.5. I think this is definitely too low, just because Semien has a lot of ways that he can go over this fantasy score. He could get on base. He could steal bases. He's a guy that is always a threat to run if he does get on base. So far this year, Marcus Semien does have 19 stolen bases. So if he gets walked and steals a base, that's 7 fantasy points. If he gets an RBI double, that's 7 fantasy points. If he gets a 2-run single, that's 7. Like, there's just so many ways he could go over. He could get walked. He could score some runs. He could get some RBIs. He does. They are offering his total bases at 1.5. I think I'd much rather play fantasy score, just because if Semien does go over total bases, I have a hard time seeing him not get 7 fantasy points unless he just, all he does is hit 2 singles, or all he does is get 1 hit and it's a double. Then that'll be, he'll go over bases but not fantasy. But I think there's just more ways for him to get points when you look at fantasy. Stolen bases, RBIs, runs scored, walks. You get points for all that when you take fantasy score. So I like the over 6.5 fantasy score for Marcus Semien. I think it's a good spot for him against Loogie. I did want to show one more thing. So Loogie this year, he's mainly a fastball guy. He throws 47% fastballs, 23% cutters. Clearly, though, his fastball is something that he's really relied on. Now, this year, Marcus Semien against fastballs has actually been pretty bad. It's one of his worst pitches, which is weird. He has a -6 run value against the four-seamer. He's only batting 182 against fastballs this season. But, the last few years, Semien has been really good against fastballs. Like last year when he had that breakout year with the Blue Jays, fastballs were his best pitch. He had a 9-run value against them, batted 295 against fastballs. A couple years ago, back in 2019, when he was on the A's, he had an 18-run value against the four-seamer, batted 293 against it that year. He struggled against four-seamers this year, but throughout his career, he's been really good at hitting straight fastballs. So far this season, the pitch that he's kind of hit best have been curveballs and splitters. Those aren't pitches that Loogie really throws. I mean, curveball he only throws 15% of the time, but he's always hit fastballs pretty well, except for this season. Maybe this is a spot though where where Semien can maybe tee up on that fastball. I mean, you look at his velocity. I mean, he doesn't really have any velocity. Loogie doesn't really throw hard. Maybe like high velocity guys is what Semien has struggled with this year. I'm not really sure. But I really like the matchup here. I think it's a good spot for the Rangers. They have over a 5 implied run total. They should put up runs today. So that's going to be our second pick for today. And then third and final pick, it's going to be another hitter fantasy score. Going to go to the Yankees game. I'm liking Anthony Rizzo over 5.5 fantasy score. And he gets a matchup against Jose Barrios today. So Jose Barrios has actually been a pretty good pitcher throughout his career, but so far this season, he's really kind of been up and down. He's had some really good starts, and he's had some really bad starts. He's flashed upside at times, and then he's also flashed a lot of downside. And so far this season, he's really struggled against lefties. You look at his numbers against left-handed hitters, he's allowed a 364 WOBA to lefties, 248 ISO, fly ball rate around 40%, hard hit rate at 38%, only has a 17% K rate against lefties. Doesn't really have much strikeout stuff against left-handed hitters. Rizzo, in general, doesn't strike out much. He has just an 18% K rate this year. And he's always hit right-handed pitching really well. 264 ISO against righties, 354 WOBA. One thing that I looked at when you're looking at the pitch types for Barrios, so Barrios, he mainly throws his curveball, his four-seamer, And those are really kind of his two primary pitches. He also will mix in a sinker as well. But curveball, four-seamer are kind of like his two primary pitches. And let's take a look at Anthony Rizzo this season against those two pitches. He has an 11-run value against the four-seamer. It's the pitch that he's hit best this season. He has a 7-run value against the curveball. It's the pitch that he's hit the second best this year. So four-seamer and curveball have been the two pitches that Rizzo has really hit well this year. Last year he hit the curveball really well. He had an 8-run value against it. He's also got good BVP against Barrios. I know people like to look at BVP, and throughout his career, Rizzo's gone 5 for 16 with 2 home runs off of Jose Barrios. So that's another positive. His pitch type, the pitch types match up well, and there's BVP there that looks good too. But we know Rizzo's a really good hitter, has a lot of power. I like that this game is being played in Yankee Stadium. Obviously, playing with the short porch is going to benefit Rizzo. Rizzo has been in a little bit of a slump lately, but he did kind of break out of that on Wednesday. He did hit a home run Wednesday, so maybe that can kind of boost his confidence a little bit. Maybe he can start to get things going. But he's not, he's been in a little bit of a slump these last few games, but that home run Wednesday might be what Rizzo needs to, start a little hot streak here. But obviously Rizzo's a great hitter, has a ton of power. He's been hitting right-handed pitching really well. Barrios has really struggled to lefties this year, and Rizzo has also hit Barrios well in the past. Plus, the two pitches that Barrios throws the most, his fastball and his curveball, those are two pitches that Rizzo has hit really well this year. Four-seamer and curveball has got really good really high run values against those two pitches. So I think everything just kind of matches up well here. This is also a really low fantasy score. 5.5, like that's pretty easy for Rizzo to hit. All it takes is like a RBI double, or obviously a home run, but an RBI double, a 2-run single, even like a single and then 2 walks. We know Rizzo will take walks, so you want to, you're obviously going to get some points for those walks when you take fantasy score. If they were to offer Rizzo at 1.5 bases, I would definitely just take 5.5 fantasy score, but I don't think they're going to offer him at 1.5 bases. But I like this 5.5 fantasy score for Rizzo. We know Rizzo is going to have plenty of RBI opportunities. He's probably going to be batting cleanup, third or fourth in the lineup. Hopefully when he comes up to bat, there will be guys on base. He'll have a chance to drive them in. Rizzo's got 6 stolen bases this year. I'm not saying he'd run, but I guess there's at least a chance if he gets on base, he'll steal. It's kind of crazy to see Rizzo has 6 steals this year, but yeah, I just like the matchup against Barrios. He's hit him well in the past. He hits his pitches well too. And I like this 5.5 fantasy score line quite a bit. So that's going to be our third and final play for today. We got 1 pitcher prop for today, got 2 hitter props. Again, guys, hitter props, they can be really random, they can be really volatile. So if you guys want to play a little bit lighter on this entry, obviously that's your choice. You can do what you want. But these are 3 props I do like taking a first look at the board on Wednesday night. Again, I will take a look at the board again on Thursday. I'll post some more props I like on Thursday. Once the full board gets posted and we have all of the props available, I'll post more plays on Patreon. I'll give a full in-depth write-up of all my plays like I do each and every day. We did give out 3 plays on Patreon on Wednesday. Hit all 3 of those plays. Cashed out on our 2-pick entry too. The top 2 plays for the day. Both those hit as well. If you guys want to get my Patreon plays, also my top 2 plays of the day, I share those every day on Patreon. Link down below in the description. Check that out if you are interested. But as always, guys, thanks for watching these videos. Appreciate you checking them out. Hit that like button before you get out of here. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And also, if you are new to Prizepicks, make sure to sign up for Prizepicks. Use promo code NOAH. They'll match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But good luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, appreciate you checking out these videos. We will see you in the next one. Peace.